Evil. Is evil a human construct? The animals have evil. It's such a
No, I don't think animals do. I think you need to be self-conscious. I thought about that in relationship to the stories in Genesis. And when Adam and Eve wake up, when their eyes are open, they realize that they're mortal, essentially. That's when death, in some sense, comes into the world. At the same time, they realize they're naked. And naked means, well, vulnerable to the world. They also learn the distinction between good and evil. Well, why are those two things juxtaposed? Well, if I realize that I'm vulnerable, naked, let's say, before the world, I need to put on clothing, for example, which is something God arranges at that point to protect this vulnerability from the world. I also realize that everyone else is vulnerable just like me. And if I know what hurts me, I know it in a way an animal doesn't. I know it. Then I know what hurts you.
right.
As soon as I know that, then I know the difference between good and evil. And evil is exactly that. It's the exploitation of your vulnerability. So, and animals don't have that. You know, they can be destructive and carnivorous, all of that. But a lion doesn't hate you if it eats you. It's just hungry. So, no, evil is something that's human.
How do we overcome evil? First in ourselves. That's where you start as a psychologist. But also in the world around us. Because I think that's one of the other battles that many struggle with. Either the belief that there's not really evil. Evil is just the absence of good.
Now,
Or-
that's a powerful argument in some sense, because evil is, in some sense, distance from the highest good. So, but I think practically it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter which of those, explanations you gravitate towards. I think you can make a powerful case that evil is the radical absence of good, but that doesn't mean that it's not an active force in and of itself, in some sense, anyways. And so,
There's a survival benefit to evil because you can hold back your competitor. So how do we reduce evil within our communities, even when nations are speaking to each other, because we have different values?
you have to quell it in yourself to begin with, I think. I don't see any other solution to that. You're actually not even really contending with the problem till you face it internally, I don't think, because you don't have any sense of how deep the problem is. And, partly what I did when I wrote my first book was imagine myself as an Auschwitz guard. And I don't mean I could be an Auschwitz guard and that was the end of it. I meant imagining it, beating someone who was already 3/4 dead and who'd been separated from his or her family, let's say her family. What would I have to be like to do that? Well, it's a horrifying thing to envision. When I worked briefly, I visited maximum security prison in Edmonton under the tutelage of this eccentric psychologist who taught me a course on the psychology of creativity. And one of the people I met there, him and a compatriot, one of the prisoners, took another prisoner and pulverized his leg with a lead pipe because he was a snitch. And that really shocked me. How could someone do that? How could it be possible to do that? And I thought about that for 2 weeks, trying to imagine doing that. And then I thought, oh, I could do that. I see, I could do that. That would be possible. Could I enjoy that? Yes. Okay. Do I want to do that? No. I don't want to do that. And that scared me a lot. And I was trying to deal with this underlying problem, which was the problem of the Auschwitz Guard, essentially, which is where I think the whole Nazi problem sort of comes to the focus. It's like there were Auschwitz Guards and they were individuals and they were like you. They were like me. So what does that mean? Well, that's what we're like. Well, do we want to be that way? Well, that is the question, isn't it? Do we want to be that way? Are we that way? Yes. Some more than others? Yes, definitely. There's some people, I don't think they're temperamentally constructed so that they could do what Auschwitz guards do, but they'd have their own proclivity towards malevolence. Might be overprotection, for example, right? Yeah. That would be the devouring mother. She's so compassionate that her children cannot escape from her grasp. And maybe that would be the root of female totalitarianism, something relevant to our current political situation, right? The totalitarian impulse of security at all costs. So it's a spiritual battle, the battle between good and evil. And what that means to me, at least in part, is that it's something that is fundamentally an individual issue. It's the battle of your soul, pulled between these opposing forces. Well, why would you be tempted towards malevolence? Because you're angry and bitter at your undeserved suffering and the terrible cataclysm of conscious existence, and the exacerbation of that by self-consciousness itself, and the broken state of the world and the catastrophe of history. It's right. Maybe it should all burn. And we are tempted to that.
Is there a role of evil? I mean, there was evil in the Garden of Eden.
Okay, so let's think about this. So, use something that everybody will know about. So, the Disney film Beauty and the Beast. Well, Beauty isn't attracted to Gaston, who's sort of stereotypically masculine but very bombastic. And, hypothetically, he's not a monster because he's in the town and he has this persona and everyone loves him. He sings a song about how great he is, but she doesn't like him. She likes this monster. And Beauty's no fool. Mm-hmm. Why does she like that monster? Well, he's tameable. Why does she want a tameable monster? Well, because sometimes the monster part is necessary, right? That's resolve. That's the ability to say no, right? And so there's this, and the best men I know are terribly dangerous people, but they have it under control. And so maybe good is better if the possibility for evil exists, but not the actuality. And maybe it's up to us to not allow the actuality to manifest itself, even though we need the possibility. It's a reserve that we need to draw on. And then there's also, we often make arbitrary distinctions between good and evil, which is something the philosopher Nietzsche talked a lot about. It's like, well, are you so sure that you don't define evil merely as what you're afraid of? And so there's this aggressive capacity in men, and certainly in women as well. And it's very easy to say, well, we should just quell all male aggression. It's like, oh yeah, you really think that's the answer, do you? So what do you want, a bunch of, children? Do you want men? Well, men are dangerous, really dangerous. And women are attracted to dangerous men, but wise women are attracted to dangerous men who've mastered it. And so maybe the world is a better place when the possibility of evil exists. So, and that's something you can think about for 50 years. So